Welcome to part 3 of the PowerPoint template masterclass. In this segment, you're going to learn how to diagnose and fix misbehaving files. More specifically, I'm going to show you some of the most common PowerPoint template bugs and how to fix them. One of the most common problems people face is dealing with the background graphics. So in this segment, I'm going to show you some of the common problems that people face with backgrounds and how you can help avoid them in your files. Now, most of the issues with the background usually are related to the theme and the templates and some of the AI-generated design in PowerPoint. So the first common one would happen is, for example, right now you can see here I have a blank presentation. It's what starting point from PowerPoint. If I click on the design here and click on the themes and hover, you'll notice this is the office theme. So what ends up happening, because most people look at this and they say, well, this is pretty boring. I want a bit more colors for my presentation. So they might end up just using one of the themes here from PowerPoint. And that's where the things start to create problems, because they think, okay, well, I do like the colors, but I don't want all my slides to have a color. I just want the cover to have a color. So how am I going to solve this? Because if they pick some of these presentations, you'll notice they all have some serious design to it. And they try now to get rid of these extra boxes and they can't. So when you're setting up templates and themes, or you encounter a file like this and you're cleaning it out for a client, try to go into the slide master and clean out any design from the first slide. Now, if you recall in video number 1, I had mentioned that we always need to make sure that slide, the first one here, needs to stay clean, because whatever you put on this first slide affects the rest of the slides. So anytime you can see here when I added that picture, now all of them have it, and we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that we have slides that are specific for content, so that people have a place to add their infographics and they have a place to add their content. And we need to limit the design to the cover and the section breaks. So that's really where most of the issue is occurring, is part of the themes that are generated from PowerPoint. Now, another thing I wanted to bring to your attention, let me just revert back here so you can see it. I'm going to go back to the white, is some of the themes and some of the designers. That's how they're designing their files, is they might design a file similar to this theme, which is a bit frustrating. I'm going to click on it and show you why it's frustrating. So this is a default that's coming from PowerPoint. It's great. Now, some people might look at it and say, okay, well, great, I like the cover, but I don't want my subsequent slides to look like this. Maybe I want to change that background image in the background. So some people might know how to work with the background and foreground. They might click on hide, but you notice even if I'm hiding the background, that picture is not going away. And the reason it's not going away is because of the file, the way it's set up. So I'm really surprised PowerPoint has that as one of the default themes, because that's where a lot of the problems can occur for people. Now, you'll notice when I click on the first slide, once again, they've done a lot of formatting to the first slide, which is not a good idea. We don't want that, because now that dictates the rest of the presentation. And notice what's happening here with the background. It's got a picture. So no matter what I do, even if I hide the background, that picture is not going away. It's going to be frustrating. The only way I can do that is if I click on solid and take it out. So I would recommend, if you want to do that, is to keep the first slide clean. If you have any pictures, add them manually on the cover and on the slides that need it, but try to avoid that picture background on the slide. Now, let me show you why this would be an issue. So, for example, let's say you have a presentation like this and you get another file. You want to import a slide from someone else, or you're merging presentations. So I'm going to show you this particular file. I took out the content because I don't want to show who the potential client is, but these are some of the layouts they had in their initial presentation. Now, if I click here, you'll notice they're not even using the right PowerPoint themes and templates. They've got the title slide, title and content, 2 blank, and then extra blank, but all the other ones are missing. But let's just pretend for the sake of this presentation that there was content here. And now if I'm clicking and dragging and I'm merging presentations. Now notice what happened here. PowerPoint picked up the layout, like you notice it added an extra blank slide, but because these placeholders were on the first slide, which you can see here from the view master, slide master, it overwrit that. Now you can see it created some extra problems for me, and this slide does not have the background like the rest of the presentation. Now this is very frustrating for most people, and I do get files like this from clients. So the best way really to do that is once you click here, try to go back to your original template and pick something that was part of your template. Now when you do that, you want to also make sure that you go back into the view slide master, and you want to delete that extra one that got created. Notice how when I imported that slide, we added a new one. So we want to make sure we delete it so that no one ever uses that. We don't want to create that kind of frustration. Now something else comes up with PowerPoint as well. So these are the common background problems where you've got the image, and when you try to hide the background, it's not working, is when you're working with design ideas. Now, if you have a subscription to Office 360, then you have that little icon here that says design ideas. Design ideas is AI generated. So this is something that's generated by intelligence, like artificial intelligence. So PowerPoint is giving us an extra tool to create some nice slides and maybe some animated slides and make formatting easier. But this is going to create some problems. For example, if I click on the cover, you'll notice that the design ideas only works if you're on the cover and if you're on the content. So you can see here, it works if you've got that default layout, which is this one. Title and content and title. It does not work on the other slides. So if you ever want to use the design ideas, that you have to make sure you're either on the title or you're on this content. But this shortcut also creates some problems. For example, let's say I do like this background and I click on it. Now notice what ends up happening. My presentation updated and it doesn't match my template anymore. Even if I click on the reset, now I've created a problem. I can't get rid of that background and my presentation is not resetting. Even if I click here and I'm clicking on the title slide, nothing is happening. I can take out the video and keep clicking reset, nothing is really working. So if you do encounter that problem, unfortunately, the only way to do that is if you click new slide and go create a new cover slide and bring your content back into it, because otherwise you're going to create frustration for yourself and anyone else who's working on this file. Some other background issues can happen even if your presentation is still plain. So even if you don't have any fancy theme attached to your presentation and you click on the design ideas, you're going to get some solutions and also some problems. So for example, let's say you want to jazz up your cover slide, and you can see here that PowerPoint has given us some nice ideas. So let me just pick the first one here and say, okay, I'm going to give this a try. And let's say you change your mind and you say, you know what, I don't want to use this idea anymore. So if you try to click reset, now notice what's going to happen. The picture is still there, so I have to delete it. And now I can't go back to the white background because I'm trying to click on reset, but it's not resetting. So if you face this particular problem, that's because if you remember in video number 1, PowerPoint reverts when you have a dark background, it has a white text. So what happened in this particular situation is it's probably switching on the background. So I'm going to click on the design and I'm going to go into variants here and I'm going to go into background. Now, if I click my white background, because actually, let me just show you what happens here. You're going to notice, remember those 4 colors we talked about in video number 1, how PowerPoint gives you 2 light backgrounds and 2 dark ones. So if I want to switch back to white, notice what happens. Now I'm back to the white presentation. So that's how you fix that dark background and the white text. Because if you try to fix it some other way, then you're going to be working against PowerPoint. You have to remember that PowerPoint has these background options in place. So now let's go back to the design ideas. Well, what if you say, you know what, I want to use that design, but I want to systemize it. So I'm going to click here. And I want to make this part of my theme because I think, you know what, that looks pretty nice. It's going to work for my cover. But notice now if I click on the themes, it's not part of my theme. So I'm going to go back here and you'll notice that the cover slide is still white. So why is this happening? Well, that's one of the little things that's still probably being ironed out by PowerPoint from the AI generated designs. So to overcome this, I'm going to take this design and and copy it and put it as part of my theme. That way, anytime I have a new cover, I'll be able to select it, because you can see here right now, I can't select it anymore. Unless I say duplicate, I can't really work with the slide anymore. So I cannot save it as part of my theme, because if I save the theme, that's what's going to be saved. I'm going to get that white background. I'm not going to get this cover. So to make this as part of my theme, I'm going to have to select these items and move them to the back end. Now notice I can move the picture, but if I try to move that background, it's not going to let me move it. You see that curve here, that background? That's because it's stuck as part of the background, and I need to go into the selection pane and select it. So I'm going to click here on arrange. You'll see that arrange item, and there I can see my selection pane. And you'll notice that now I can hide the picture, I can hide that background. This is the subtitle, and this is the title. So I want to take these designs and make sure that they look the same on the back end of the presentation. So I can copy the picture here because I can see it, and that shape, which I cannot click on, I can find here. So you can see here when I click on the shape, it's being selected. So now that it's being selected, I can actually cut it out. So I'm going to do Command X, or you can do Control X on a PC. So you can see here now I was able to cut it out, which is perfect, because now I can go to the master, slide master, and I can add it to my cover. So now if I go Command V or Control V on a PC, I'll be able to paste it. But notice what happened here. I've got that same issue where I'm not able to move it. So I need to paste it in a different way so I'm able to move that object and recolor it. So I'm going to click on that shape here again. You'll notice I selected it from the selection pane, and I'm going to go Command X again. And this time I want to paste it as an SVG. So I'm going to go into Edit, Paste Special, and you'll notice here that there's that option SVG. Now if you do that, then we'll be able to move that item around. So now you can see how that SVG file format is going to help us. So now you get to decide. Now if you notice here, my background is white and that picture, that object is dark. That's because the background is different. But if I switch the background, for example, if I go into a darker background, now we're going to try to mimic what did we have on the front end that had that custom color. So I'm not sure what it is. I'm just going to go back in here and go into View Normal. And I'm going to click here on the color. So I'm going to go into Format Background because I want to see what is that color and if it's something I want to use. Now you'll notice that color is not part of the theme. So it's not a good idea because I want to pick a color that would work as part of the theme. So I'm going to go back to the back end in here. So this is how you're going to be able to fix this. I'm going to go back into the slide master here, and I'm going to go select a color. So I'm going to try to see, you can see right now we've got that office theme. What if I select something with more of the orange browns? Maybe that could work. So I'm going to go back here to the colors. That could be an option for the darker browns. Maybe if I pick something a little bit darker, I think that might work with the picture of the lady with the shorts. Let me go back, get that picture. That could set the tone for the presentation. So I'm going to now do Command X, get that picture, and I'm going to go back into the slide master and I'm going to paste my picture. So that's working. And now I can color this thing here and give it another color based on the theme. So let me just move that here and try to pick something that was a bit lighter. I think that's what they had a bit on the front end. Maybe something like that. Yeah, that looks like it could work. So now that I've got my background in place, I can go in here, customize the slides and make it fit. Of course, watch video number 1 to see how we can fix that. And if you wanted to move things around and give yourself a bit more room, you can see that I can do that now because I pasted them properly. So I can go now to the front end, go New, and if I duplicate this, and then click here on the reset. Let's just try to pick this particular cover. It looks like maybe something else is still overwriting it. So I'm going to go New again here and just make sure I'm picking the right one. Okay, you can see that this is our new layout, which looks very similar to the one that PowerPoint gave us. Now, of course, you can go in there, adjust the colors, but for now, I just wanted to show you that that's how you would fix the issue with the slides. I can now get the text, and I'll go delete the slides that I don't need, and now I know that I am working within my theme. So if I save this and I do a reset here and I start moving slides around, you'll notice everything is snapping into shape, and now this is a better functioning design. Now, there's another thing that can create issues with the background for you from the design ideas. So, for example, when I just showed you in the previous example, if you have more than one slide on your presentation and you click on design ideas, PowerPoint is going to suggest some layout. So, for example, if I click here, you'll notice that this slide changed. This one did not. If I click here on the top, you'll notice that it's still using a blank template, blank theme for me. So if I wanted to use this design, I'll have to move it to the back end. But notice now, if I only have one slide on my presentation, now notice if you only have one and you go into the design ideas, now you're going to see some different designs here. So for example, if I pick, let's just say if I pick this one and then I click here on the theme, notice that PowerPoint has updated the entire theme for me. So do keep that in mind, because if that's not what you want, then make sure you have two slides on your presentation, because if you only have one slide, then the entire theme gets updated. And even if the entire theme got updated, notice that now I still have to go in and clean out the slide, because this particular slide is not part of my theme. So if I like this cover and I want to reuse it, then I'm going to have to do what I did with that other process, where I'm going to have to go cut out that image and go back to the template and create a layout that looks like this. Because you can see here, this has a particularly, even though I am using the title slide. So for example, if I click here, new, and I say title, that's what the title should look like. So this is something unique that PowerPoint has created. And if I want to reuse this slide again, then I'm going to have to copy these elements, go back into the view master, slide master, and maybe create an alternate. That's what you remember how I did that in video number 1. You can duplicate this and now rename it, call it title slide alternate, and then you can reformat it based on what is on the front end. Another common problem is font inconsistency. In this segment, I'm going to show you how to deal with font inconsistencies and ensure they never happen again. So for this example, I'm going to go back to the file that I showed you in video number 2. Now, if you recall, this was the commercial template that I downloaded from the membership site, my paid membership site, where I get some of my graphics and template resources. And if you remember, this was really a non-functioning file, because it's non-functioning because none of these slides have any contents. Well, let me just go to a new slide. They don't have any text placeholders. So if I'm going to be working with the text and guidelines from PowerPoint, well, this file doesn't really help me. I can't even edit the background. So it's a non-functioning file. Now, unfortunately, this is what most people do with their presentations. A lot of people just use a blank slide, and then they go in here and they add the title. And then when they do that, they just click on any font. They might just pick a fancy font, give it a size and a color, and then they think this is done now with the presentation. So this is fine if you have a few slides, 5, 10, 20 slides. But if you're working on longer presentations, then this is going to be a headache and you cannot create that consistency. So now when you're looking at this file, obviously the best thing to do is to go and clean out the template. Now, if you've watched video number 1 and 2, you'll know how I cleaned out this file. I showed you that example and you'll know exactly how to do that yourself. But what if you're in a rush? Let's say you're in a rush and your client needs this file in half an hour and you don't have time, and you've got all of these slides, they've got manual formatting, there's so many fonts in the presentation. Well, the first thing to do is you go into the file properties. You want to assess how much work is needed. And I can see right away this file has so many fonts into it. Instead of having just 2, because if you remember, PowerPoint uses a heading and a body only. We talked about that in video 1. This file has so many fonts and I have no idea which text box is using what. For example, this is Roboto, this is Open Sans, this is Open Sans, this is Montserrat. So this file is really full of inconsistencies. So if I wanted to solve this problem quickly, and if it was a rush, only a rush, of course, I would always recommend you clean out the template. You can use the format replace font. That's where you can go in here and just pick take out the fonts you don't want and replace them. But since I don't know what boxes are using what, so what I'm going to have to do is just pick one font. I cannot even pick 2 fonts because I'm not really sure what text boxes are used on what particular box. So for example, if I don't want the Open Sans here, let me just use the semi-bold. I don't want that. I can go in here, replace it, say Arial, and replace. And now you can see here a lot of the boxes got replaced. So I'm gonna just revert back for now. And since since this is one of the example. Now, another way you can do that, which can also save you time in the future if you plan to revisit that file and clean it a bit more, is go into the View Master, Slide Master, and go pick a theme font that can work. So since right now we know we don't want the Calibri, let's go pick something that's safe. I'm going to go pick the Arial for now, just to make sure that I'm tagging things, that I'm tagging the heading, the title to be Arial and the body to be Arial. At least I've got that in place. Now I can go back to the front end, and once I click on these boxes, I can quickly format them. Now you can see here I can just give it something, a heading, body, making sure that the title is a heading, and anything that's not a title, not bolded, is a body. And you can see here now it would become quick when I can pick multiple boxes and format them at the same time. Now there's another thing that can speed up the process. Now this is not ideal, but just if in case you're in a rush and you need to do that font consistency, is you can pick, for example, right now here I can just go in here, make that the title, since I know this is my heading, and I can make it bold. Now everything else on the slide I know is going to be a body, so I can just quickly go in here and make sure it's a body, and at least I've got a little bit of consistency. Another trick that can save you time is you can click on one particular box, format it the way you want. So for example, I probably want to make this 14, a little bit bigger. I want to change the paragraph, instead of the line and a half, I want to make it single, and I think that looks a little bit more consistent. So another quick way is I can just click on it and go here into the copy formatting. If I double click here on this brush, double click, I can go to some of the other content boxes, and you can see here now I can quickly go through the presentation and start formatting the text boxes with a little bit more awareness. Another common problem is color inconsistency. So in this segment, I'm going to show you why some of the colors might not match up, especially when you're importing slides from another presentation or when you're applying styles to a specific presentation. So let's go back to this particular file example, because this is probably what most people end up using. They do a lot of manual formatting. So in terms of the color, for example, to know if your file is working properly, I'm going to go bring back that slide, if you remember that from video number 2. And if I click and drag now to see if it works with my presentation, you're going to notice that the colors don't really match the template. Everything else on the template that I bought looks like it's purple. So how come this slide is looking like it has different colors? Even if I reset, the colors are not matching the file. And that's because if I go here into the master, slide master, you're going to notice that the actual colors used in the theme is the office. It's not using that purple that matches that presentation. Now, of course, you can spend time here and recustomizing it. For example, for a quick, if you're in a rush, I can just use the quick purple here. Let's go see in the front end. That looks like it's close. That's a quick fix if I wanted to do that quickly and start formatting the presentation. So that's for a quick fix. But of course, if you have other elements on your presentation and you need to fix them one by one, then once you change that theme color, you can click here on the boxes and start using them from the theme. Now, there's no option like you remember if we had that with the font where you can go into font, replace fonts. There is no option like this for the color. So for the color, you're probably going to have to just pick the color here yourself. Pick one of the colors. Once you like it, you can use that, the copy formatting, if you double click on it, and you can go start recoloring some of the elements on the slide. Because now if you're making sure that you're using colors from the theme, then if you start merging with other presentations, it will work. So that's the quick fix for the colors. But of course, ideally, everything needs to be set up in the template. Now you can see why I created this course, because this is a big gap in the marketplace. Most people don't know how to work with templates or set up the files. And if you learn how to do that and you set up the files correctly for you and for your clients and your teams, you're going to be the big hero in your company and fixing all these bugs and issues that come up with presentations. Another common problem is dealing with footers. So I'm going to show you in this segment some of the common problems that people face when dealing with the footers and page numbers. So let's go back to this example with a commercial template, and we're looking now at the footer. You'll notice that this slide has a page number, slide 2, this one has slide 3, and this one 4. So it looks like it has page numbering, but if I go here into the View Slide Master, I can tell that the slide does not have these placeholders in place. Now, if you recall in video number 1, I talked about the placeholders and why it's always important to have the footer and the date and the number on all slides, because that way if you have them on all slides, the users can go and choose if they want to have them. So for example, I can go here, add new, and let's me pick a blank slide. If I go insert and say add header and footer, and I say pick the date, put the page number and the footer, let's just say this is a footer, and say apply. Now nothing is working because I don't have that placeholder on the slide. But notice if I go back in here and add it. So if I go back here on the blank slide and I do add the footers, and of course I can resize them, I can put them wherever I want to have them on the slide. Maybe if I want the page number here, I can have it at the top. Wherever I want, I can really format it per slide. So they don't always have to match the top slide. I can move things around on subsequent slides as long as they're always visible. So if I go back now to the front end and I do the same thing, I go in here and I say insert header and footer and I choose them. That's how I know this is going to work. Now I'm going to say this is a footer. So if I say apply, you'll notice it shows up on this particular slide, and you'll see that this says slide 5 and I've got slide 5 here. So that's how it should be working. But since most people don't know how to do that, or they don't realize why the file is not working, they end up doing manual formatting. So now another quick fix. Well, what happens if you're in a rush and now you don't have time to go clean out these slides? There should be another way where you can get these slide numbers to work without having to fix the template. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Now I'm going to go back in here into the slide master, and I'm going to go to the top slide, and I'm going to click and copy that page number here, and I'm going to go back to the slide at the front. Now this is a temporary fix. I highly don't recommend you do that for all your slides, but I'm going to click here and paste. So you'll notice now that I pasted that, it's showing number 4. So I can now go in here, make it white, and I can delete the manual one. And I can add this 4 here just temporarily as a manual fix for now, a quick fix. But of course, as I keep repeating, it's best if you do that in the slide master. So I'm going to do that here. You can see it says 4. And now if I duplicate this slide, let's see what happens. You're going to notice it says 5. So that's another quick fix if you wanted to put the page number on the front, but always do make sure that you fix that in your slide master. You need to make sure that all the elements are in place and working in accordance to what we covered in video number 1. Well, congratulations. Now you know more about PowerPoint templates than most people do, but I can appreciate that you might still need some help. So if you need help with your strategy, that's when you're working on the strategy of your presentation, defining your objective, or trying to think of how you can storyboard your content, I can help you with strategy. Another element I can help you with is content, the content research and development. Because once you have that storyboard, now how do you create that content to support your story and help your audience understands what's in it for them and what you need them to do next. And of course, slide design, which starts with the presentation template that now you have a great understanding of with the presentation templates. But I can also appreciate that you might still need slide design, especially if you're working on longer presentations like webinars, courses, or sales presentations. Of course, I'm here to help. You can reach me on my website and also connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn and see what you're up to as well. So till next time, ciao for now.